Hello, everybody. Today is a great day, a day in the fall of 2020 when we're looking forward to application season moving along. We're getting into the financial aid season of the year. And lo and behold, there are probably many things going on for many of you. Let's name them. The things that are going on are that you might be scared about the way your pipeline looks. You might be wondering when all the inquiries will arrive or where the applications are relative to last year. So today we're going to take on a topic to mitigate some of that and hopefully something that you can implement immediately and think through your own process in order to make your campaigns better. Campaigns is such a multifaceted word. So here we are, more than ever. We are interested in having a diversity of strategies in order to appeal to seniors and their influencers. In today's webinar, we're going to talk about digital nurturing strategies that can be applied to both seniors and influencers. We're going to hit more on seniors than influencers, but in many ways, the things that we're going to talk about today are universal, with the ultimate goal to cultivate relationships with these interested audiences and then enroll students. We all want to enroll students, right? And this year, 2020 has been a very interesting year. Interesting, I'll put that in air quotes, interesting, in order for us to understand what's actually going on. So let me introduce myself. I'm Jamie Gleason. I'm coming to you live from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where I call home. That's me right there. You can see me right here now. And I have 15 years in higher ed. I've seen the entire student life cycle through from the admissions process through residence life all the way into the alumni and working with alumni who have been in an institutional pipeline for over 50 years. On the personal note, I'm a volunteer with 2 nonprofit children's organizations. I'm an avid biker. I call myself a farmer. I love to be I do it your DIY projects, and I love to give my opinion, which is why you're here today, not to just listen to my opinion, but to understand what I've gathered and researched in preparation for this webinar. So thanks for coming. It's good to be here with you. And let's start by talking a little bit about who I work for. I say there that I've been at Capture since 2015. So you might be asking, if you're not familiar, what is Capture? Well, Capture is a company located in Louisville, Kentucky. We are the only company that combines marketing automation and predictive modeling in order to reach your goals. And your goals, drum roll please, you know what your goals are. The goals are to identify students, to convert those students, and ultimately to enroll those students. We want to make sure that we're making good use of the time and the resources that are available to you. And our goals as a company are to help you accomplish these 3 things. Now, the way we do that, we do it differently. Let's just be honest. Capture does things differently in order to get to these ends. And here's a little bit in a nutshell about how we do it. We use what we call our behavioral intelligence platform. And behavioral intelligence is an integration, like I said, of predictive models and behavior in order to understand what does that student actually want to do? What is the question that they're really asking? And we also we use these tools. We apply different solutions to them, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Some digital solutions in order to drive back to your website, in order to drive behavior, and we do this all through a team, a managed service process where we collaborate with you, with your goals, with your institution, in order to create a seamless process where, when I was an account manager at Capture, I used to say, I'm a part of your team. Consider me one of your part-time staff members in order to accomplish the goals that you have. So we really embed ourselves into your team, partner with you and your institution in order to really direct and really to use behavioral intelligence in order to make your systems and your processes better, smarter, more efficient, use all sorts of different adjectives in there. So you might be asking, well, what is behavioral intelligence? This is a new term. My My wife is a faculty member, and she always says, be careful when you introduce new phraseology. You have to put some brackets around it so people understand what it is. Well, behavioral intelligence is quite simple, right? It's the collection and use of data to understand and predict human behavior to influence specific and important outcomes. And in this case, the outcomes, as we talked about before, are to cultivate relationships and to enroll students. And this time of the year, when application season is when we're in the heat of application season, when we're trying to get more applications, when we're trying to understand how our early decision numbers are going to look, how our pre-break or pre-semester break are, what that pipeline is going to look like, it's important that we invest in the cultivation of those relationships. And so this is what we're going to talk about today. So let's start with some basic definitions. So you might be thinking, okay, maybe I know what a nurture campaign is. I think there's it's very commonplace language in marketing and enrollment management to talk about a drip campaign, right? A drip campaign is this constant, a lot of people think of email comm flows that are just over time being dropped in the laps of either an influencer or a senior. And it really just tries to move the student through the process. I'm going to take a little bit of a different angle on when it comes to nurture campaigns today. And I don't think that I'm out of place by doing this, but very simply, a nurture campaign, as we're going to talk about, is a series of digital communications that are designed to respond to the behavior of a consumer. And this is a big, bigger definition as it comes to just general marketing. Specifically, what we're trying to do is guide these prospects that we're talking to and through the enrollment process. So the goal of this, obviously, is to convert. So back at the beginning, I set a slide, captures role, what we do, the why of why we exist is to identify, convert, and enroll. Now, let's just understand here, there are a lot of conversions that happen in the pipeline of an institution. So we're going to talk about those conversions from inquiry to applicant, from applicant to complete, from completed to admitted, from admitted to deposited. A nurture campaign can be focused on all of those things. But if our goal is to convert through cultivation, then our campaigns must be personalized and textured. That's just my opinion. But I think that plays out. And I think that we live we're serving right now a generation of students that not only is accustomed to that, but they expect that. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. So insight number one, I'm going to share 3 insights today that can help you with this process of creation. And I'll even say optimization of your digital nurturing strategy. A lot of you out there who might be listening have a digital nurture strategy already in place. It's already set up. It's already working. So I guess the question I'm going to ask for you is can it work better? And the question I'm going to ask for those who don't have it set up is, what's it going to take, or how can you get this done now? So insight number 1, measurable multi-channel, not monolithic monotony. So a couple points there for alliteration. Thanks for noticing. But I've always equated in many ways nurture strategies, and in fact, many strategies in the enrollment world, I like to think of them as an onion. I particularly like onions, and I actually think that this actually could be a good analogy. Could be the difference between an onion and a chive, right? Both give flavor, both kind of accomplish the same thing, but a chive is very skinny and straight, just one. It's monolithic. An onion has all those great layers, and if your resolution's good enough on your screen right now, you can see all those layers of that cut onion. And what we're trying to do is get through the process in the enrollment cycle, the next step. These are each a different layer for us to get into and to understand and to kind of break through to get the mini yes. So I was talking with a colleague the other day, and they said they kept using the term the mini yes, the micro yes. And I think that that's really what a good conversion process looks like, is there's a series of micro yeses through the process. So what I put together here is a completely fictitious, although we could find this in the timeline of all of the partners that we work with, but I just took one and made it up for the purposes of this webinar today to take a look at what this multi-channel mechanism looks like. So you can see on the far left of your screen that, basically we've got a kind of a late cycle first source student. They come in March. So, this is fictitious. They could come in October. They could have come in August of the previous year. I mean, any one of these things happen. And you can see you go from first source to CRM-driven email conflows, which would be typically called a drip campaign, to a web visit, to then a progressive identification form, to more marketing automation along the way, into a digital campaign on a web-based banner campaign, through to back to your website and application, and then ultimately some strategic print mail all the way to deposit. Right. So that's a 6-month process that we're kind of showing there, give or take. Definitely something that we are accustomed to seeing. Right. This is a journey that many of our students go through. And depending on the level of sophistication, we see how different mechanisms are a part of that journey. So for Jared's journey that we just looked at, like I said, it has email, it has digital, it has marketing automation. We call it dynamic content capture, triggered text, popover messages, micro forms that we call progressive identification. But then there was also this little point of print material. So behavioral intelligence allows us at Capture to really be smart about the deployment of print materials, to use the data, to use the behaviors that we see in order to drive those high costs, which we all know print is a high cost mechanism, to drive those to the students that they need to go to. Ultimately, what this gets us, this stratification of mechanisms and modalities, it gets us results. We love at Capture, we love to just measure how things are going, right? Like taking a look at the products that we have, the application of those products and services, and really seeing results come forward is really like the epitome of our existence. So here, what I have here is really just a quick snapshot of one partner that we've worked with. A disclaimer: this partner is a very is a big user of the behavioral intelligence platform as a whole, right? So they use Engage, Apply, Enroll, all of our predictive tools. We work on their search and search consulting and purchasing for them, email marketing, digital advertising, and direct mail. But I want to really pull out here that a lot of the client results that I'm showing are a result of Engage, marketing automation, and tracking. Really that kind of global measurement of the process, and then really understanding how digital advertising feeds into that. So you can see here that when we apply these products and solutions to this partner's pipeline, what they saw was what a lot of our partners see is this massive discovery of what were stealth leads. So students who are coming to your website, who are not raising their hands like in the traditional sense that we think of. And we see that manifest itself here in a 9%. 9% of their first year class was identified through Engage. And that was the mechanism. We also saw a massive jump in yield in the first year of 5%. So that means that the adding different layers of communication and types of communication in order to nurture those students forward, we were able to speak to them through that process. So as we think of, where we are, as we come into December and start thinking of the downhill into September, having a diversification of communication tools allows us to speak to what's happening in that student's life. And I'll get a little bit more into that later on. The behavioral intelligence platform showed us, it really is a great tool for showing attribution and understanding, hey, how do these things have an impact? What we saw is that 82% of this incoming class engaged with some of our tools. Like we saw, whether it was email marketing and digital advertising or direct mail and, marketing automation on the website, like we saw 82% of these students who were coming in the class, they had responded. They had been engaging with us. And, for a bonus, and this is doesn't have anything to do with our webinar today, but this institution was able to really use our predictive models, which were 98% accurate, just saying, in order to understand more about how to deliver, to the audience that they need. So let me break that down very quickly. Using predictive models, you can actually narrow your resources, narrow your field of focus. So then you're spending those resources on the students who are, they're engaged, they're highly predictive, all these different things. It really just makes that process, it gives you that full funnel look at what's going on. And it helps you to, again, narrow that focus. So when I used to be a director of admissions, I think always the thing that I was trying to do is like, how do I clear the noise out of my funnel so that way we can apply resources toward the students who are most likely to convert. Deep breath. Okay, so what I've highlighted here is really what I would call a kind of like a basic, like digital comp plan, a digital way to kind of integrate. But the thing is, like in this era that we've lived in the era of COVID and the pandemic, what we've seen come forward are more tools, almost innumerable tools that we could integrate into our nurture campaigns. So what am I talking about? Obviously, the very obvious are the social media outlets that are a part of the process, whether it's building more lead generation forms or more testimonials or infographics or things like that. Social media is a great way to integrate your digital a little bit more. And there are ways to do that through communities and other things like that. The digital now has also taken a very different form, right? Unibuddy is an interesting example of an associated ambassador platform where you can actually have your prospects speak with the students who are already there. Conduit and Platform Q is really a great way to have virtual visits where you can we have a partnership with Conduit where we can add tracking and understand, that student's in there doing a virtual event and then they're going someplace else. We get to watch them all the way through. And then the next generation is like the question of how, I really asked that question earlier of how do you make yours better? There are lots of tools that you can either apply to your website or as a part of your digital advertising strategy or even part of your email comm flow. I spoke a few months ago about this tool called bombbomb.com as an example, and it allows you to record video messages that you can insert into email for students. So it doesn't have to be a super personalized, but it's a video message that they can grab on their email and it makes your email come to life a little bit more. So really thinking about how do I integrate to another level? If you've arrived here, how do you move from here to the next level in what you're doing? All of this is better with behavioral intelligence, with the behavioral intelligence platform. And here's why, and here's what we do as a way to make it better for the clients that we work with. So if you think of your inquiry or applicant pipeline as a pie, as you see there, a pie chart, what we do is break down, okay, who are the highest likelihood students? Like how do we grab that section of students that has a high likelihood, and what do we do with them? So we take our machine learning process that really powers the predictive models that we have, and again, big difference here, and plus real-time behavioral intelligence that we're getting from the actual user. So we take the model and the behavioral intelligence that we gather from that user, and we target those students who have the highest likelihood to apply. So what's the ultimate outcome for you? The ultimate outcome is that you spend less time on dead ends. The conversion rates that you have, whether it's applicant to completed to deposit or whatever, they're higher because you're spending your time on students, on prospects that have a high likelihood and they're active on your website. And ultimately you become the hero. So yay, you become the hero. That's what we really want you to become. We also at Capture love to measure because, why do we love to measure? I actually thought about changing the title of this slide from to say measurement for optimization or something like that, because ultimately, if you're not measuring, you don't know how to make things better. You don't know where you're getting your ROI. You don't understand what you can do. What I've included here is like 3 kind of random screenshots that I grabbed from our dashboard that really show like, how do we measure overall? Like you see in the upper left there, this is an overview. We get to see the dynamic content and how's it comparing to other clients that are using our software. Like, is your stuff good? Is it bad? Is it average? On the next one over to the right, we see a specific campaign that allows you to understand at a glance, like, hey, how's the tracking? How many students are interacting with that? What's the click-through rate? Is it actually working? And then on the bottom, you see something that actually I don't think is available in many other places. And in fact, we may be the sole proprietor here of this, but you can see UTM tracking of other campaigns that you have going with other vendors, or just general search from Google or Yahoo or Bing or whatever. And you can see, hey, how are all of those things building an attribution pipeline? How do I understand like what they're doing? Okay, so I'm, just like always, I'm really far behind. So I got to speed this up because this is a 30-minute webinar and I'm on point 1, just going on to point 2. So insight number 2 is that optimization, we want to optimize and have personalization at scale. So we talked about optimization and how measurement leads to optimization. And sometimes I think personalization, which is a huge keyword right now, everyone's thinking of how do I personalize thing. I wanted to just put out there that personalization is progressive. And in many ways, you probably already are personalizing because you're thinking about what generation of students am I talking to, and what does that need to look like? But first, I would encourage you to speak in the medium that the audience wants. So whether you're talking to influencers or seniors, like make sure that you're understanding what tools are they using and how should I be speaking to them. Also, think about the generation. Again, think about how parents are different than students, how language is different for each, and personalize that way. So that's a little bit more of a broad category of personalization. Getting a little bit more nuanced, you can think about how does geography dictate a personalization strategy that I want to implement, whether it's in your CRM, whether it's in different digital campaigns that can very easily be moved from place to place and customized and nuanced according to that geography. Then think about the person. What are the monikers that you have, like the flags that say, hey, oh, that student wants to be a part of an athletic squad, or they want to be a part of this student activity, or they're interested in this particular program. Like, think about the student and think about those different ways to personalize. Now, again, personalization is different for every institution. I would say some need to have personalization in a all the way down through program level. And we work with partners who have very, very robust personalization plans. But I think the important thing is that you're always pushing it to be a little bit more personalized, because in this generation of students that we're dealing with and that we're trying to convert, personalization has become a part of the woodwork. They are digital natives, right? Like we have talked, we hear this term a lot, digital natives. So what's that mean, right? They live online. I love this cartoon because it's like, talks about how there's, not a lot of need for paper. Everything is web-based. And I looked up real quickly, like, what are some of the characteristics that that digital natives expect? And this really becomes like something that we need to live by as we're starting to think about how do we personalize toward this group of seniors and even their parents, but like specifically to the students, like how do they receive information? What are they looking for? And how formalized does it need to be? And I know for me personally, like this has really helped me to think in a different paradigm and understanding, it doesn't necessarily always have to be this way. There can be random access to resources, which I was kind of curious what that meant. But that really means like that they don't care about having like one specific call to action. There can be hyperlinks dropped in. They can have these random things because there's an attention span that can be capitalized on here to give them more information and potentially expedite that process of nurturing and conversion. I was in a meeting last week, And one of the folks in the meeting said to me, we need to learn how to flirt more when we're talking in our marketing messages. And I thought about that a lot through the weekend, and I was putting together this webinar material, and I think that there's something to be gained here, right? So step back with me here for a second and think about how transactional our messages usually are. Apply now, register for a visit, learn more, all these kind of like punctiliar things, submit your transcript, all this stuff, when really part of the personalization process is really, allowing your nuance to show. So I took those broad categories of flirting as I did my research in Psychology Today. And if you look at those bullet points, and I'm not going to go through all of them right now because I'm dreadfully out of time, but think about how you can apply those principles to different mechanisms of digital marketing. Obviously you want it to look good. You want it to be gentle. You want it to like have, to be direct, but at the same time, have some mystery. I think that there's a lot of like kind of fun opportunity that lies in here to kind of broaden how you speak about your institution, about some of the quirkiness of it, some of the characteristics, some of the things that students love. Really thinking about how do I build trust through this kind of this interesting personality that we have in our institution. So I'll leave you with that to simmer. I'll give you a bouquet of flowers to boot as we move on to the third point, which is, in many ways, there can be a very specific digital nurturing strategy that can be applied toward influencing the influencers. Parents are a big part of this process. And as we think about the paradigm of 2020, parents are scared. Parents are still worried. They're concerned about investment. They're concerned about the economy. Like, a lot of these things can be spoken to, but we have to make sure that as we're speaking to parents, that we're speaking in the right place. The modality definitely matters when it comes to people who are my age, people who are older than me. I don't have kids that are college age yet, but I'm not far away from it. So really understanding like what are going to be the most effective tools to reach that audience. I would encourage you to avoid the temptation of gathering parent information and then broadcasting over and over and over to that audience, but instead create content and material that really is going to spur them on to come back, to establish yourself as a trusted brand with that audience. And I've included that infographic because you can see the diversity that exists between younger people, as they're called in this chart, and older people, and really understanding like, hey, it's going to look different. I'm going to drive parents to potentially a blog that students might not be likely to go to. So really understanding like, hey, what's important to the parent of that student, and how do I get them to be believing in what we're doing as well. I'm a big fan also of asking and listening. I'm a guy who like loves to use the chat on websites and things like that. So make sure that you're using these tools in order to get results. Like using this is an example here on the screen of a dynamic content campaign. We call these progressive identification forms, but essentially you can do a survey based. We do emoji surveys and different ways where you can ask parents for questions like, hey, and here's a great one. Like, how do you like to be contacted? What's your modality that you want to be contacted in? And then apply that to your parent comm flow or your parent digital strategy and use that. Like, use the information that they're giving. I think so many times, a pet peeve of mine is that we ask for so much information from people, and then when we don't use it, we don't listen to it, then it's just like makes people want to give less information. I've got some PID, like an actual results there for a PID campaign that we ran for a partner. But overall, what I want to impress there is that progressive identification, when you ask a question, people respond. They want to give their opinion. They want to give the answers, and they want to be a part of creating that personalization strategy that meets their needs and fits them. And it also is a great way to gather organic leads for students or parents that you don't already have. So if you don't collect parent information already, this is a great way to do that in order to build out that section of your pipeline. Last but not least, I just wanted to encourage you to always be optimizing your process, right? So many of you have invested thousands of dollars into the build of your CRM and to the prompt flows that come out of that. And I would encourage you, if you have not done it yet, or if you need to do it more, build in personalization to that. Integrate stories. So let's learn to flirt a little bit. Let's make some stories and outcomes in order to create that connection that is strong and builds trust. Leverage your marketing automation because it's cheap, it's very flexible, it's very you can actually make it very scalable to different audiences and states and geographies and types and all this kind of stuff. And as it relates to the quote on the right, never stop pioneering, because digital nurturing is changing with technology that surrounds it. And there's always an opportunity to make yours better. And that's really the end of my material for today. But the good news is this, woohoo, drum roll. There is a part 2 to this process coming up. So we have another digital nurturing strategy for underclassmen and transfers that I'm going to be doing very soon. If you have any questions, I've put my email right there at the bottom. Again, my name is Jamie Gleason. I'm coming to you from Capture Higher Ed. I really want to thank you for attending today, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.